Hello, everyone. Welcome back if you've been following me, and welcome to the channel if you're new here. So, today I thought I'd try something a little different with one of my dolls. I thought that since it's so cold, everybody might like to snuggle up and get ready to listen to a story. So, today we're going to be reading with little William here, and he is the Mallory sculpt by Pat Moulton, I think, and we are going to be introduced to his dad, Howard the Duck, in the first chapter of the novelization of Howard the Duck in this video. And as you can see here, it's the novelization of the 1986 film. I know I'm quite weird for loving that version of Howard the Duck, but I love the comics too. It's harder to read the comics so aloud, so I chose this instead. And I hope you enjoy it with me because I had a lot of fun reading it to y'all. And for those of you that are new here, William here is, as I said, he's supposed to be the son of Howard and Beverly, and I'm working on his wings and tail as we speak, so those should be on him soon.
Okay, so
Let's get started with the
Howard the
reading.
Duck by
In
Ellis
3,
Weiner, Chapter
2, 1, 0. Chapter 1 of Howard the Duck by Ellis Weiner.
The universe, a boiling chaos of matter and energy, where billions and billions. Hold it, boiling chaos? Billions and billions? The bill of fare announces Howard the Duck and you're playing Carl Sagan? Who let you on this page? What is this? Who are you? I am the voice of the greater cosmological context. You mean God. Well, not to be immodest, but I am the voice that speaks on behalf of the infinite, the voice that says for the ages that which cannot be said. And do you? It is I whose pear-shaped tones encompass galaxies, I who invoke the extremities of cosmic boundlessness. Omniscient I it is who ushers puny, stupid you into the awesome domain of eternity. Be nice. Listen and learn of the destiny of worlds. Hear and grasp the ultimate acts of creation and destruction. Attend and admire the voice that launched 1,000 identical documentaries about Orville and Wilbur, Goddard and von Braun, Sputnik and Schmutnik, and the miracle of flight. Are you the guy who says things like, ever since he first gazed in wonder toward the heavens, man has yearned to fly? Yes, I it is who says such stuff as like that. I thought you sounded familiar. I am more than familiar. I am ubiquitous. Innumerable are the second-rate science fiction stories told in voices aping mine. Uncountable the SF movies introed or outroed by facsimiles of me. No astronomy show on television gets aired without I say so. Which brings us at last to Howard the Duck. I am that voice of voices, of which Rod Serling's You Unlock This Door with the Key of Imagination, and William Shatner's Space, the Final Frontier, and that guy on the Outer Limits, There Is Nothing Wrong with Your Television Set, are but feeble imitations. All right, I'm convinced. You're God. You flatter me, but very well, let it be so. I am God. Fine, but I'm the narrator, so shut up and let's get started. Howard, a duck on a world of ducks, got home from work one afternoon. Beat. The universe, a boiling chaos of matter and energy, where billions and billions of stars rage in ceaseless silent fury. Within this throbbing electromagnetic pandemonium along that real but non-existent border between nothingness and somethingness, time itself is unleashed, relentless, mysterious. He threw his briefcase on the couch and trooped off into the kitchen for a beer. The place was a disaster. Unwashed dishes in the sink, yesterday's leftover Le Canard Gourmet frozen vegetable medley and a light cream sauce still in the pot, a half-empty bag of Mallard Mars on the table. Howard from Ducklinghood, hectored by his mother-to-be neat, had been a slob ever since leaving the nest. He barely noticed the mess. Yes, unstoppable time, flowing through this half-empty bag of I'll start again. The universe, throughout the staggering infinitude of space-time, where countless galaxies careen at unimaginable velocities through an airless, frigid void, matter combines with energy to form life, the miracle of life, amoebas, beagles, everything, and from life itself, the multiple. Howard was not only tired, he was irritable, and assailed by that almost nauseating sense of futility and waste that sooner or later descends on almost everyone the moment they perceive, if only for a second, how pointless and dumb their jobs really are. He had spent the whole day arguing about the Quaker Oats account. The idea was to sell oatmeal to grown ducks and drakes. The trouble was, people usually associated hot cereals with when they were ducklings. Now the client wanted to reach the hard-waddling corporate types, the directed upward career class everyone was calling or pretending to be tired of calling the duckies. Howard had come up with a pretty good slogan. You don't really have it all if you don't have Quaker Oats for breakfast. A little clumsy, but it did manage to use several of the key concepts. Competition, have it all, be or do your best. You've always known what you've always been. You know when you're going and you know what's right for you, so you'll know when you get there. But his boss had nixed it and chosen a different one. Quaker Oats, because you're not a sitting duck. Aw, come on, Don, Howard had said. That doesn't make any sense. It says, eat oatmeal because you're not an easy target. It's paranoid and sleazy at the same time. Technically, Howard, verbally speaking, that may be semantically true, Howard's boss had said. He was the sort of middle management chap who happily conceded every point you made because his mind had been firmly closed over breakfast every morning. But it reads kinetic. I'm not a sitting duck means I'm a duck who's not sitting, right? I'm not sitting around on my tail feathers. I'm going. I'm flying. I'm an on-the-move type of individual, right? I'm going up, up, up. It reads what I call goal-oriented because it's a situation of, hey, look out, I'm happening. I'm going for so-called it, quote unquote. I appreciate the rewards that come from living very, very well. I'm the duck of the 80s. Howard wasn't sure what all this had to do with oatmeal. The multiplicity of oatmeal, of life forms, a dazzling variety of living organisms evolving on millions of planets throughout the cosmos, the endless drama of evolution, simple organisms becoming complex, attaining consciousness, growing, creating societies, constructing civilizations of remarkable sophistication. Howard flipped open a bottle of St. Pauli Gull and headed back to the living room. Maybe something decent was on TV. But the first few turns of the dial revealed the same old late afternoon junk. A rerun of Dragnet with Jack Webb. Just tell us the quacks, Shorty. Fat Chance Friday. A hospital scene from Call My Children. I'm afraid your star witness is blind, Kimberly. This duck? Blind? Oh my God, Bill. The spy movie. Platypus with the Y at the end. It's an adult joke. There are a lot of adult jokes in this story. I won't be repeating this one. It appears I've underestimated you, Mr. James Pond. Howard kept changing channels until he came to a basketball pregame show. Chick Hearn was interviewing Larry Bird. Hey, great, Howard said, and sat back and sipped his beer. It was about then that his chair started to move. Cation, and among this infinite Really? It was a brief sort of shiver. Howard thought it must have been caused by a passing truck or one of his neighbors dropping something heavy. It stopped after a second, so he looked back at the TV. Hearn was asking Bird how he liked playing against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's Swallow. The chair started to move again. This time it began as a fine, subtle vibration, but quickly grew into a bone-rattling shake. I'm dreaming, Howard told himself. I must have fallen asleep in front of the tube. But if Howard was dreaming, so was his furniture. Whatever was causing the chair to rock around on its 4 feet in a kind of stationary gallop was also making the living room go nuts. A lamp fell off the side table and crashed to the floor. A bowling trophy tumbled off the shuddering TV. A vase and some framed pictures. His parents, Howard on stage at Folk City, Howard looking glum on the first day of med school, plummeted off the mantelpiece. It's an earthquake, he thought. Gotta get out of this maniac chair. He leaned forward. To the extent that chairs are able to have ideas, Howard's chair had other ideas. It tipped. He fell back. Then, with its duck passenger helplessly off balance, the chair shot backwards. Howard grabbed onto the vinyl upholstered arms and hooked his legs around the front as what until now had been an ordinary Lazybird lounger roared like a rocket sled smack into the living room wall in an explosion of wood and plaster. He had shut his eyes for the impact. When he opened them, he discovered that in the comfort of his own easy chair, he had paid a visit to his neighbors. The chair had smashed through his wall into the drab, stuffy dwelling of Herb and Edna next door. For one suspended moment, Howard was treated to a glimpse of unself-conscious Anatidean domesticity, i.e. a nice quiet duck evening at home. Herb was on the living room couch reading the paper, his webbed feet up. Edna was taking something from the refrigerator in the kitchen. Then the chair zoomed through, sending tables banging and rugs flying, smashing lamps and mirrors, leaving a wake of scattered newspapers and flapping magazines. Herb squawked, "What the?" and Edna screamed. Howard croaked, "Help!" and was gone, crashing through a wall into the hallway, barreling along, pinned to the chair as though on a roller coaster. Doors flashed past. Ahead of him, the far wall and its one closed window drew rapidly nearer. Nearer. The chair felt like it had engines strapped to its back. Then he was at the wall. He braced himself and burst through out into the placid evening. "Oh, cripes," he said out loud. He curled into a ball and waited, cringing for the inevitable fall to the ground. It never came. The chair flew off into the sky and up, up, up. He may have been a sitting duck, but he was definitely on the move. He was flying. He was going for it. On the street below, far below, shoppers with bags, cabbies leaning out their car windows, kids tossing balls, cops on the beat, and other assorted fowl looked up in curiosity and disbelief as Howard and his easy chair soared off into the shimmering night sky like a meteorite in reverse. He was happening. He was kinetic. He was the duck of the 80s. He was the duck of the 80s. Exactly, which brings us back to the universe, with its vast array of planets and life forms. In this infinity of time and space and matter and energy and so forth, all possible worlds exist. What is airy fantasy on one is rock-firm reality on another. On one planet, men are men. On another, they are large glasses of milk. Seriously. And on still another, on Howard's world, men are duck. Howard's last glimpse of Duck World came as his chair suddenly dropped away like a rocket's booster burning out. It fell off, but he kept going, faster than ever, arms flailing through the great vacuum. Below him, the planet of his birth turned slowly, a bluish ball about the size of an orange and getting smaller every second. He could just make out the continent of Dafrica. Thousands of stars now surrounded him, bright, fiery pinpoints. "Excuse me, bright, fiery pinpoints, thousands of stars, please. When describing the ineffable mysteries of the cosmos, always rely on a professional. Stars, thousands of bright, fiery pinpoints aswirl in the nebulae and clusters and gaseous galaxy formations of the vast, fast, ghastly reaches of interstellar space." As he hurtled toward what he could dimly sense was some unknown but profound fate. Miraculously, he was able to breathe. Neither the intense heat nor the absolute cold of space had any effect. He could even, against all the rules of physics, hear things. What he heard sounded very much like a duck screaming his head off. "Gotta get a grip," he muttered. "Can't panic." Howard tried to get some perspective on what was happening. Actually, he shouldn't have been too surprised at all this. Being plucked out of his home when all he'd been doing was going about his business, not bothering anybody or demanding anything, it was the story of his life. The world took pleasure in sneaking up on you and finding new and creative ways to make you miserable. One minute you're sipping a beer in your living room, the next minute you're on a chair zooming through outer space. Boy, was that typical. And who needed it? Sure, the scenery was nice. Giant pinwheeling galaxies drifting past his widened eyes, flaring comets and sizzling meteors and other space fireworks diving and exploding out to infinity and all. But how would he ever get back home? Plus, it's kinda lonely out here, Howard murmured. Of course it's lonely. It's the universe. Then what am I doing out in the middle of it? Howard said, not sure to whom he was talking, but glad to make some conversation. I didn't ask to be here. All I wanted was to have a brew and watch some b-ball. What's wrong with that? Nothing, but your experience reflects one of the principal laws of the universe. Some ducks are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them, and some— Howard waited a moment. He was in no mood for dramatic pauses. Yeah, somewhat. Some ducks end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Great, thanks. Howard hurtled on. He decided he could live without the interior conversation between himself and whatever cosmic spirit or alter ego was coming back with such lousy answers. There was only one question that concerned him as he whizzed through the limitless, unfathomable blah blah of space. Where would it all end? Apparently on an opaline blue-green planet, sheathed in swirling white clouds about the size of a grapefruit and getting steadily larger. Howard stared. The planet approached, basketball size, then big as a beach ball, then the giant in-your-face size of that huge canvas monster ball they used to kick around in high school gym class on rainy days. It was bigger than the students. Once it had hit him in the bill, knocking him down and drawing blood. Other ducks had laughed, but he'd felt heroic. It then occurred to him that flying off into thin air was one thing, but smashing head first onto terra firma was another, and he wasn't even slowing down. He could feel his velocity increasing, his body caught in this world's gravitational pull like a fish on a line. The big blue planet began to reel him in. Hey, enough's enough now, okay? He said aloud. No answer. I mean, fun's fun and all. Nothing. He swung into an orbit around the immense blue globe, which now turned lazily beneath him and filled his entire field of vision. It was a pretty thing, but he wasn't sure he wanted to go plowing head first into it. But then it wasn't up to him. None of this was. Help! He was still yelling when his orbit decayed and he fell. Plummeting through the planet's atmosphere felt like sinking deeper and deeper into a pool filled with soap suds. The air got thicker. He could actually feel it on his hands. Amazingly, though, he didn't burn up. Still shouting, he broke through the clouds and could see below a dark, sprawling mass of land. In a minute, between screams, he got close enough to make out a million tiny flecks of light. It was inhabited. He was heading for the center of an odd-shaped continent and 5 black shimmering bodies of water. What if it's not water, he squawked. What if it's science fiction stuff like methane or ammonia? It could be anything. Those lakes could be filled with sangria for all I know. This is outer space. Howard, who didn't care for wine-based fruit beverages, blanched. Nonsense? Sure, but this whole event was crazy, and if there was a purpose to this exercise, it escaped him. Purpose? Don't make me laugh. There is no purpose in the Howard saw to his horror that he was heading not for a nice wet lake or ocean, nor even for the dubious mercies of a snowbank or forest, but directly toward a city made entirely of stone, brick, concrete, and steel. He was going to land smack on his little duck's ass, and it was going to smart. I want to meet the guy who's in charge of this, he squawked. I demand an explanation. It was all he could manage. A vast landscape of buildings and roads was rushing up at him. He could identify moving vehicles, apartment houses, blocks lined with street lights, individual houses and garages, playing fields, factories. It seemed like a good idea to start screaming again. Help! Howard crashed through a billboard reading Cleveland Van and Storage and sent up a shower of sparks, splinters, and feathers. His momentum, which was prodigious, sent him ever onward. He bounced off a water tank, flew off the edge of a building, caromed off a wooden overhang, and slammed into a trash dumpster with a loud, reverberant bong. He came to rest in an alley on a dilapidated easy chair set out that evening for the trash man. The duck had landed. Howard warily opened his eyes. His normal duckly tenor was a soft whimper. This isn't fair. True, but thus has it always been, and thus it shall remain, for this is the universe. There's no other place like it. Howard looked around without moving. He had thought the line was "There's no place like home," but this was some other place. He sat up and, aching, weary, exhausted, and in a bad mood, sighed, "Oi, you can say that again, Howard."
And that's it for Howard the Duck by Ellis Viner, the novelization based on the 1986 Marvel film of the same name. And I feel like if little Will here was real, he would love this story, because in my mind, his character loves these adventures. And don't forget to let me know what you thought of this so far in the comments down below. And I want to say a big thank you for tuning into this with me. And don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share the video. See you next week. Bye!